Okay, so let's go over this article that's been going around the internet, and it is by George Hotz. If you are not aware of who he is, he's basically a programmer, a hacker, a creator in the tech space, and he's currently very popular, mostly also in the AI ecosystem. And I'm going to leave a link in the description down below if you want also take a look at his other articles. But essentially, this article is quote unquote criticizing the usage of AI coding agents. And I want to go over it because the sort of the ideas that he shares here and the conclusions that he got to are very much similar to the ones that I got to a few, I would say, months earlier. So, The Eternal Slop Timber is the title, and it says here that I'm calling it now: the adoption of AI agents into software development will be one of the most costly mistakes in the field's history. Agents cannot program, and it's taking longer and longer to realize that they can't. They are a highly sophisticated statistical model designed to mimic the distribution of programming, and the output is broken, but in a way that's getting harder and harder to detect, which is exactly what you expect from an increasingly accurate statistical model. And this is actually something that I talked about in one of my previous videos. Now, granted, it is not an opinion that I had from the same point of view that he has here, because he has a lot more experience and knowledge when it comes to machine learning than I have. I sort of came to that conclusion by just observing what the model does. But I talked about this idea that around December, the models got very, very good. But they didn't get very good at the things that matter. They just got very good at sort of not crashing a program when they made a change in terms of syntax. And they got very good at essentially the output that they generated right in front of them. So if you think about like an entire project, you made a bunch of different changes over time during an entire day, during an entire week, and you always want to make sure that you keep in mind the goal that you have, whatever that goal might be. And the thing that the models got really great at, excellent, and I'm not saying that this is not good in terms of like machine learning progress, but it is kind of a quote unquote lie in terms of how good they are, because they just got very good at not doing the mistakes. And I think I even used this exact same term in a previous video. They got so good at not making the mistakes, but that means that they continued making a lot of mistakes that are very hard to detect. And he says here exactly that: the output is broken, but in a way that's getting harder and harder to detect. But before we continue with this video, I want to invite you to join the Tech with Tourist Inner Circle, a private group for programmers that want to grow their skills and explore new and interesting topics within programming. When you join, you'll get access to weekly group calls for members only, where we'll do everything from teaching classes, have open-ended discussions, and explore new and fun projects. When you join, you'll also get access to a private Discord server where you'll be able to chat with other members and with me. And last but not least, you'll have access to exclusive pre-recorded courses on a range of different topics such as front-end development, back-end development, machine learning, tooling, and much more. To join, go to techwithtourist.com/IC. That's techwithtourist.com/IC. So you look at the code, you look at the output, and everything looks great until you actually start to dig deeper into it. It takes a lot of time in the first place to dig deeper into it. And when you finally do, you realize that the model made a bunch of like bad decisions when it comes to the code. So he continues by saying that at first I rejected this. I bought into Twitter explanation of status anxiety. I defined some of my self-worth by my programming abilities. So wouldn't it make sense to get defensive around that loss? Deny the models can code for as long as I could preserve my ego. I mean, it's very clear that they can solve math problems I couldn't hope to solve if I devoted my life to it, so why can't they program? Maybe I'm just not good enough of a programmer to recognize their genius. I really tried for 6 months, and this actually is more or less the time that I took to really explore them. I think I started somewhere around June or July of last year, just dipping my toe into the first agentic coding. Like I took my first agentic coding steps, if you may, and around August is when I really got a lot into it. and I sort of got out of that phase or out of that exploratory period of my life around, I would say, February of this year. And around that time was when I just realized, I even made a video about it where I said that I'm just done with AI coding agents. I use them very rarely now compared to before, like maybe 5% of the work that I do, 10% is done with AI coding agents, and the rest of it I just went back to doing manually. And most of it was simply the fact that I started trying to explore this kind of agentic coding, and every time that I had a problem, I actually tried to fix it. I tried to improve the prompts, I tried to improve the context, I tried to improve the harness, I tried to change harnesses to see which one was better, I tried to change the model, go from Claude to GPT, then to other open source models, and I just got to a point where I realized, okay, I'm just chasing my own tail and I'm going in circles. And like, I assumed, okay, if other people are saying that this is something so great, I must be doing something wrong, so I need to just keep trying to improve it. And I think that's overall a good mentality to have. Try to improve something, try to make it better, try to actually make it work. But at some point I just realized that, okay, I'm not really making any kind of progress when it comes to my projects. I'm able to do a lot of exploratory work, which is something that is very good about it, to be honest. The fact that I can explore different kinds of things, but that is mostly from like a interest point of view. So if I'm interested in a particular topic, it is seems cool to me and I want to explore it with LLMs, it's nice to do. Or if you want to just very quickly get something out there to see how it would look like, whether in terms of the actual user experience or the code itself. But besides this exploratory phase, I just don't think there's any room to use them currently. And even during that exploratory phase, I use them less and less because I just prefer to get into the code and explore things myself. Because like, the point that I'm trying to make here is that sometimes even if I explore things with the coding agent, I still miss a lot of things. So I'm not really exploring per se stuff because I'm not able to get into the details and see exactly like what the pros and cons are for each kind of implementation when I'm trying to explore. And if you start a new project and you're not really aware yet of how you want it to look, and you just let the agents sort of show you the different possibilities, then you might be, and you're going to actually end up losing a lot of important context for making the right decisions. But yeah, continuing, he says then that I wrote some parts of tinygrad. It is a quote unquote alternative to PyTorch or to MLX, tools like that, with agents. I reversed the USB PCIe chip with agents, but each time I suspected I could have done it better and faster manually. The agent front loads all of the progress, then gives you a slot machine lever to pull to hope it gets the polish done. It never quite gets there. And this is also something that I've experienced many times. The fact that you can like get a lot of the way there with the agents, but then to be able to finish that last mile of the project, you're just basically hoping for a good outcome or good output, I should say, from the agent. So you're just trying and hoping, and just trying different contexts, trying different, like giving different prompts to the AI agent instead of actually fixing the issue from a point of understanding. I'm not saying that AI isn't useful, it clearly is. It's definitely a better Google for most searches, and whenever you need a quick prototype and don't care about polish, it is absurdly fast. But is it a software engineer? Not close to the bar at any company I have worked at. The key aspect is knowing when to use it and when not to. I thought more about it, about this self-worth preservation thing. AFL found more bugs than LLMs and nobody felt that way about it. Chess and Go are more popular than ever. I cannot wait until I have armies of robots associates I can trust to clean up my code. I don't fear loss of status. I almost think this is some kind of psyops to sell agents. Fear of loss is one of the only ways to make big companies move. Though I think in that fear, they are making a big mistake. So I think more or less the point he's making here is that he's not a person that would be afraid of or try to run away, let's say, from the fact that AI agents are good, and he's not in this case just hiding his head in the sand and trying to ignore reality, and he's essentially making that point. And I think that I agree, because in my case I would wish, to be honest, that the AI agents would be so good at helping me develop the projects that I want, to the point where I didn't like have all of these problems. So it's not like I'm saying all of these things that are bad about AI coding agents as a way to try to run away from like the reality of what's happening, or because I'm a programmer and I don't want to quote unquote accept reality, because I like the type of work that I do is the type of work that would greatly like benefit from the fact that I would be able to go faster with a AI coding agent. And the reality was simply that, like I said many times, I really tried it and I simply wasn't more productive. I lost productivity in a lot of different cases because I was just like losing myself in this constant loop of trying to fix the prompts, trying to fix the context, everything, instead of just worrying about the actual stuff that I was doing. So the focus sort of like drifted constantly from the actual work. Agents will end up hurting large organizations more than high performing individuals or small orgs. I've watched how my friends and coworkers have adopted these tools over the last 6 months. A trait you find in all high performing people is the ability to error correct, and they have mostly been good at seeing when slop is slop. It takes a bit to explore, exploit, and tune the outer loops around when to use them, when to trust them, how to use them, etc. But I haven't seen any one of them move to a model where they don't carefully read and understand each line except in some confined domains. Contrast this with a large organization, much slower feedback loops, much less alignment, the bottom performance won't have that self check. They are the ones producing 10x output with the agents. What do you think is happening to the average output of that organization? What is happening to the average output of the world? And I think this is something that is very easy to see today. Now, I don't want to say that it happened only when AI coding agents or AI itself, which ChatGPT got introduced into this equation, because I already was seeing a lot of decline in terms of just code quality overall, like applications that break all the time, even like day-to-day stuff. A lot of people that I know outside of this tech bubble always complain about like websites when they used to just shop online, like applications that they use day to day to do mundane stuff. So it's not just an observation from someone that is like inside of this tech bubble. I think it is a like consensus that the software quality has been going down, but I think that we can see that the software quality has gone down even more, like at a drastic rate, ever since AI agents were introduced into the equation. And also, I see a lot of like just silly bugs inside of software from much bigger organizations that I used to see. So if you think about like a big organization where you know that they have a lot of engineers, not necessarily even like the most famous ones, but I just started to see a lot more bugs in those kinds of organizations that usually should have seniors there that know what they're doing and prevent those kinds of silly bugs from like getting into the software. He continues by saying that agents will end up producing more code, more apps, and more features than ever before. It is a golden era for buckets and buckets of slop, and a dark age for gems of quality. I hear that Apple is pushing AI on all their engineers. When people think in the abstract, they think AI will do all this stuff, but let's focus on the concrete example. Do you think macOS will get better or worse in the next 2 years? And the answer is worse. Like I said, macOS is one of the examples from what I just said a few seconds ago. I started to see now, granted, it is not something that happens as much, but the experience that I had using macOS, even let's say 5 years ago, when macOS was by far not in its golden age when it comes to stability and performance, I saw like a lot less bugs than I currently see. And the kinds of bugs that I see now are just silly things. When it comes to focusing an input, searching stuff inside of Finder, when I'm inside the settings app within macOS and I try to like click something, it just doesn't register the click. So a lot of just tiny details that happen over and over again that I just started to see, and it is something, like I said, that didn't happen just a few generations back of macOS. When people see an artifact, they make assumptions about the process that was used to create it without even thinking about it. They assume the creator had a basically human state of mind. This assumption is no longer true. Things can be broken in ways that weren't previously possible, and old proxies of underlying quality like syntax and grammar are useless. AI produced artifacts are not produced by the same process as human ones, and this difference, while extremely subtle in statistics, makes itself obvious when you try to interact with and build on the artifact in human ways. And one important thing I really think it is important to make this very clear. George is someone that has a lot of knowledge when it comes to machine learning, like a lot more knowledge than your average programmer, even. Compared to me, he's just light years ahead. And I would assume that compared to most people who are going to watch this video or read this article. So he has the actual knowledge to know exactly what's happening underneath the hood inside the LLMs, which is something that cannot be said for a lot of programmers. And when I read on the internet, mostly on X Twitter, other programmers that obviously have no idea what they're talking about, saying that, oh no, you're just doing it wrong, that is a skill issue. If you improve your context, your prompt, you're going to actually be able to pull it off. I just think to myself, like, this person clearly doesn't know what they're talking about. The other day, also on Twitter X, I saw someone saying, why can't LLMs just copy, like when they know, quote unquote, they want to produce a string of characters or like a sentence that they've already done so and they know it is going to be repeated, why do they have to go like word by word, and why can't they just copy altogether? And that's just something very basic about the nature of LLMs, how they essentially output one token, then they pass the output back into the LLM and they produce the next token. So it does that until the final answer is complete. So just the fact that someone said that goes to show that they have no understanding, or I should say very little understanding of how LLMs work. And this person was someone that I would consider to be a great programmer. He worked at companies that you probably recognize their names. He's a good engineer. When it comes to LLMs or to machine learning, that's a completely different story. And he ends the article by saying that without fully endorsing all their ideas, I'm now in the Lee Kun Marcus camp on LLMs. Now, if you don't know who these people are, Ian Lee Kun is a machine learning scientist. He used to work for Facebook Meta, and Gary Marcus is also a machine learning scientist, and he's very much vocal about the fact that LLMs are not true intelligence, they are not actually able to think, and like he says, without fully endorsing all their ideas, without agreeing with everything they say related to machine learning or the future of machine learning in terms of coding or other use cases, he says that he's very much in their camp right now. And both of them have this basic theory or idea that LLMs are not truly capable of true intelligence and that we need a different kind of architecture for them to be able to not make these kinds of mistakes anymore. So this entire article explains how when you actually start using an LLM to do day-to-day work, you quickly realize that it is not truly intelligent and it still makes a lot of mistakes, even though it is now able to, through a lot of reinforcement learning, remove different mistakes that it was doing in the past. Things like not being able to compile or syntax errors, very silly errors. Those things were fixed, if you want to think about it like that. But we still have a lot of mistakes that are simply not able to be fixed currently. And their theory is that the current architecture doesn't matter how much we try to improve it with different kinds of tricks, we're simply not going to get there. First, we need to come up with a different kind of architecture. And that's exactly what he says here. I don't think models like this will ever be able to program. I think the process matters. I think that deep learning is still the solution, but real programming agents will need world models, which is something that Likon also talks about a lot, not some RL VR thing that comments out the failing test and tells you all the tests are now passing. So this is basically saying what I said right now. Instead of just doing RL on the models to teach them how to basically get rewards that are right in front of them. You need an actual model that understands the entire context of what it's trying to do, because if not, it's going to do silly things like this: remove the tests. Like if I delete the test, technically the test now passes, and just like this is a clear example, but there are then a lot of different things like this that it does just to be able to fix the problem right in front of it during training to get the reward, and then it learns to do that during inference, and it is just not something that is able to actually understand what it's doing. The real story of this era will be who manages to avoid harming themselves in their AI psychosis. And I agree, I think that even more importantly than AI psychosis, which I think is something that a lot of people like say they went through but they didn't actually went through. I think, like I said, I went through this period where I was very much interested in AI agents. I Everything that I did when it came to coding was around AI agents, and I was in a certain kind of sense like blind to their mistakes, blind to their like shortcomings, to their failures. But I don't really think that was a like I don't consider that AI psychosis. Now, obviously, there are people who are actually being harmed by this kind of technology, but I think that it was important for a lot of us. Like I said, 6 months was the time that it took him to explore this kind of programming, and a lot of people went through that period faster, others a little bit slower. Some are still going through that right now, but I think that it's important to just try to explore. And if you were to ask me, like in the middle of this period of exploration that I had with LLMs, I would have told you like, okay, yeah, they are making mistakes, but it's because I still need to improve this, I still need to improve that, and do that better, and do this better. And obviously, I got out on the other end, and I just realized, okay, this is just something that is not doable. So I'm just going to like give up on it and just admit that, okay, this is something that is like, I'm just wasting my time here. So yeah, this is basically it. Like I said, you can go and read other articles on his blog. I think that his takes are very much interesting. He's a very controversial like person in general. No, I'm not saying that as a like personal opinion, but just saying that in general, when it comes to people, he's very I would say more not controversial, polarizing person. So he's a person that people either hate or love, but I think that his ideas are very interesting. So I think that if you want to like soak that up, I think it's interesting to take a look at his other articles that he talks about, again, things related to machine learning and AI. And this article, again, something that just that's why I don't usually do this kind of like reading articles in on this channel, but I thought that it was very interesting, and I resonated with a lot of points and a lot of the like periods that I went through during my coding with LLMs phase were just like very similar to what he talked about. So I think that it was like a good idea to share that. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below what you think. I'm also going to leave a link to the article if you want to take a look at it, and I'll see you on the next one.